Yo, yo, this is Rashad Farrow at Universal Unity, aka Love I Am. The creator is not the creation. The observer is not the observed. But the creator can change the creation. The creator can affect the creation. If a painter doesn't like a spot on its painting, it can apply change to that spot. So the creator does not identify as and with the creation. If we're talking about the world, our soul being the creator, and the bodies and the world we live in and see all around us being the creation, our soul and sentience and consciousness being the creator, and the thoughts being the observed, the sentience, the consciousness, and the soul being the observer, and the thoughts being the observed. The effects of the body temple is what's being observed. If you sit and you close your eyes and you focus on the practice of presence and being, and you close your eyes and you just be, and you allow yourself to observe your own breath as you breathe it in, as you hold it, and as you blow it out. You just observe. When a thought arises in your head, you look at the thought. You don't have to identify with the thought. You don't have to say the thought is right. What I mean by identify with the thought is if you have a thought that you are unworthy, or that you're fat or skinny or whatever it is, you can observe that thought and you realize that this thought floated into your sphere, and you catch it and you're like, oh, I don't know if I resonate with that thought. I don't agree with that thought. Or maybe you do agree with that thought because you don't realize yet that you are just the observer of the thought, and you don't realize yet that you are not the thought. So when you have a thought that passes through your awareness and you know that you are not your thoughts, whether it's a good thought or bad thought that you grabbed onto, you'll know that that thought is not you, and that if this thought gives you a high vibration, a high good feeling, or if it gives you a negative feeling, you can decide whether you want to hold on to it or let it go. You see, you are not your thoughts, which means you don't have to listen to those thoughts. You don't have to allow the thoughts to affect your emotional state of being. When a thought comes up, for instance, what I do that helps with getting rid of these thoughts is if I have a thought that just pops in my head, maybe it's a thought of something from the past. It can be any thought, but it's disharmonious. It doesn't make you feel good. Or it's something, I swear, it's always when you're in the best of moods, right? And then all of a sudden something wants to creep in and try to mess it up. In those moments, when I have a thought like that, I instantly remember, this is not me. Where'd this come from? That came out of nowhere. Oh, I'm aware of what this thought is trying to do. Or maybe it's not trying, but I'm aware of what it can do if I allow it to get to me. And you know what I do? The thought comes up, I go, oh, this is not me. This is not my thought, and I don't like it. And I go, boop. And I snap. And I literally imagine that thought bubble bursting. And then I'll even imagine a golden sphere starting as a pin in the middle of my brain and expanding outwards and blasting anything that is disharmonious or distracting thoughts right out of my head. And then you know what you do after that? You let it go. Don't try to rethink about whatever that circumstance or situation was. All it's going to do is bring you down. It brings you into a state of not being present. Now you're over here thinking about the past, or you're thinking about the future, and it's not even in a constructive way. It's in a way that's making you feel icky inside. I feel like that's the best way to describe it for me. Sometimes these thoughts don't even arise a feeling of sadness or anger or whatever. Sometimes it's just a feeling of ugh, you know. And that feeling is not where I choose to resonate and have my baseline. As you develop a practice of presence and being, as you continue to evolve and you start to realize you're the observer of your reality and that the things happening around you aren't you, so you can apply change just by what you put your attention on. So instead of putting your attention on all the things that are not serving you all the time, start placing your attention on what it is you wish to see. Start placing your attention on what it is that you want. If you're living in an unfavorable circumstance or situation or condition, instead of dwelling on all the negative things that are constantly happening and the negative circumstance, start expanding your mind, visualizing, meditating on, and commanding the things that you do want in your life. I want to see more prosperity. I want to see more joy. I want to live more in a state of love. I want to know myself as a piece of the Creator. I want to know myself as one with everything around me. You start stating these things. You start writing them down. You get it into your subconscious, because that's the whole key of all this, is when you start to implement these practices and you do them over and over, you don't identify with the thoughts and the creation. You start to identify as the observer of these things. You start to implement better and healthier practices for your life. You start acting with love. You start throwing light at shade. When people want to throw shade at you, instead of throwing shade back, you throw light instead. You start implementing these practices and you begin to raise your vibration, your awareness, and you create a new baseline for yourself. So now, instead of fluctuating between doing all right and what the heck's going on in life, I hate it here, now you're fluctuating between good and better. And you keep implementing these practices. You begin to see the signs around you. You begin to see the proof in your action around you. And it may not be big at first. Maybe it's not huge life changes, but it's small internal changes. And you start to realize that you having the positive effect that you do in small doses helps other people in situations where, you know, you meet someone or you talk to anybody. It may not always be a huge noticeable thing, but you'll begin to notice these things, and the people you're close to will begin to notice these things. But then your baseline raises to now your baseline is good, and now maybe more towards the top is great. And then eventually it moves up, and now your baseline is great. No matter what, every day you feel great. And only on occasion will you dip below that baseline. Because once you begin to realize that you're the observer, you're the creator of the creation, you're the observer of the observed, and you're not identified with these things, then you begin to identify with what you really are, which is joy, which is love. I know I say it a lot, but it's true. What you really are is knowing, is infinite expansiveness, is beauty, peace, harmony, and creative energy. A soul, a consciousness, sentience, given energy in order to express its gifts, talents, and abilities and grow. All of creation is growing. There's many uh there's many worlds within all of creation that are living its own reality for growth. And some places may be dark. Some would say Earth is one of those places, but everything is in a constant state of evolution. It's all happening for the evolution and growth for all of creation, because all of creation was created by the Creator, and the Creator inserted itself into the creation to have experiences because it wants to, because it's love, because it wants to know itself better. There could be a billion reasons, but we as humans, and probably no being will ever know the full extent of why God, the creator of all things, chose to do this beautiful experiment game called life. But we're here. And while we're here, we might as well do what we can to grow and evolve and to be a positive force on the change that's naturally affecting on all things. That's the only constant in life, is change and the truth of who you really are, which is a divine emanation of the source of all creation. So at this time, around the time of the celebration of the Christ and moving into a new year, begin to think about maybe a New Year's resolution to go within once in a while. Because the times that we're going into, stepping into the unknown, where so many beautiful possibilities are there, so many directions life can go, we're going to need to know who we are. Not the character, not the personality. It got us to here. But now it's time to evolve into what and who we really are and how we are meant to express. In the highest way possible. I love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Radical peace and blessings. Peace.